And we're live, and welcome to the palatial studios of Ocean Freight TV and Ocean Audit here in beautiful Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm Steve Ferrera, your host and CEO of Ocean Audit and Ocean Freight TV. So great to be here today on the inaugural show of our move to the beautiful city and area of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So great to be here in the new studio and resonating across the broadband to the Americas and beyond. And welcome to all our guests in all types of continents and countries as we talk about all things ocean, ocean freight, and the unique ideas and opportunities that I, Steve Ferrer, present to you in terms of how ocean freight can be improved, global logistics strategies, and competitive nature of the ocean freight industry that is hidden beneath the surface. So we got a great show for you today, and truly am glad to be back on the air after a few hectic weeks of setting up the new studio and the new home here in Fort Lauderdale. We're so glad to be back on the air. There's so many new ideas and improvements that we're making to enhance not only the recovery and audit process that I do with Ocean Audit, but also to bring you the best in ideas and breaking programming and creative strategies that help you in the supply chain, both in the logistics suite and the finance suite. I must say, I've been totally taken back over the last couple of weeks and months about America's new fascination with tipping. And although this may seem like a strange intro to an ocean freight or a global logistics show, adding a tip, on my checkout computer, right, is not like adding a tip at Starbucks. As a matter of fact, I don't want you to add a tip to my bailiwick. I'm quite happy with doing $1 million ocean freight refunds every week for you, my beneficial cargo owner clients, and reaping the rewards of the recovery audits that I do. Once you get paid, then I invoice you. And that's my tip. That's my joy in life. No, the tips I'm talking about today are how you can make your supply chain and your tiny little movements in your ocean freight volume and fidelity resonate within the organization to achieve supply chain fluidity and make all the participants in the supply chain and supply chain finance chain extremely happy with you, Mr. Logistics or Miss Logistics or Mr. Procurement or Miss Procurement or Mr. Finance or Mrs. Finance, Miss, excuse me, and or Miss Internal Audit and Mr. Internal Audit. It's all about the stakeholders that sometimes don't get the real props, right, in terms of how you use your expertise to manipulate and control and to promulgate forward movement in your company's supply chain. So let's start off. We got a power pack show today. So let's start right off and talk about something I call a full quantity. And full quantity is pretty amazing. You see this cup runneth over here. But I think there's a really interesting theme that we're starting to see, especially in fixing the the wrongs of Containergeddon, the sins of Containergeddon. And by full quantity, what I'm referring to here is something known, a little known rule that 90+% of people, maybe 95% of people, don't realize exists. And it's the full bill of lading quantity rule. And so we have terms, and you've probably seen them. Maybe they're buried and you don't really look at them in invoicing. We have terms such as RSD, PCD. What do they mean? Well, RSD is received for shipment date, and PCD is price calculation date. And these are dates that we would know, and you would commonly hear as the gate in date at origin. In other words, when the cargo was received in Shanghai or in Antwerp or in Cape Town. Doesn't matter where, right? So there's a fixed time frame when that cargo, those containers, your manufacturer produces the goods, they bring the cargo to Maersk CY or Evergreen CY or Expediter CY or DHL CY container yard. And so what I want to share with you is how you can use full quantity bill of lading rule to defeat the ugly sins of Containergeddon Now, remember what we viewed in Containergeddon was a whipsawing of rates. So, for example, from June 1 to July 1, July 1 to August 1, August 1 to September 1, September 1 to October 1. Okay, so you'd have a rate matrix or an NVOCC service agreement or rate agreement or a standard ocean freight vendor contract, where the first set of rates is 12,000, then it's 10,000, then it's the next month it's 9,000, then it drops to 6,000. Right? So I think you'd all agree with me, right? The whipsawing of rates in certain periods of time during Containergeddon was pretty intense. So how about this, right? What we're seeing is, in many of the audits I'm doing, and again, now we're starting to see, really $1 million recoveries per week on this issue. And here's how it works. So let's say you have your manufacturer in Vietnam makes 10 containers of footwear. Okay. And so your rate on July 7th is $10,000. Your rate on July 8th is $7,000. So let's say that on July 7th, all 10 containers come into the container yard. So your rate's going to be 10 containers times 10,000. That's your ocean rate. But under the full bill of lading quantity rule, if 9 of those containers come in on July 7th at the $10,000 rate, and 1 container comes in on July 8th, which is the effective date of the new $7,000 rate, guess what? All 10 containers get the benefit of the $7,000 rate. So instead of seeing an invoice at 10 times 10,000 of 100,000, your true invoice should be 10 times 7,000 or 70,000. That's a $30,000 refund, right? Just on one bill of lading. That's why my cup runneth over when we talk about these cusp issues, something that's on the cusp or the precipice of change, such as Containergeddon ocean rates, really makes a difference. Now, how big a deal is it? It's a pretty big deal because, especially on large bill of lading quantities, you seldom have enough trucks to bring in that kind of container quantity in one day. So, chances are, in many cases, let's say 50% of the time, the full bill of lading quantity will be staggered over a day or two. And that can play into your advantage. Now, proactively, if you ever have a situation where you're getting a rate change on a certain date, you can send a message to your vendor that says, hey, don't deliver all 10 containers until July 8th, which is the $7,000 rate, right? So you can actually control your own destiny, right? So I know this sounds kind of weird, right? And I'm not trying to say, that every savings that you get, you can justify against let's say your salary as an example. But let's say that, you're making 150,000. Just use that as a number, right? And you saved 40,000 on day one because you knew about this rule. That's 1/4 of your budgeted salary, right? And so these are the kind of things that make the true mavericks and maverickesses, I think, of the supply chain. And so full bill of lading quantity is one of the pro tips that I wanted to have a takeaway from today, along with the next one. I mean, when you get a date in ocean freight, you got a date, right? And I'm not talking about this kind of date that these 2 lugbirds are doing on the container vessel, but I'm talking about amendment dates. But why do vessel operating common carriers and NVOs do such a horrible job delineating the dates on, say, a NSA or an NRA or a service contract? And how can a good date make you rich? Well, we kind of went over that a few seconds ago. But I really want to focus on the fact that amendment dates are, in my opinion, based on my oversee of hundreds of thousands Now, millions of containers. I feel amendment dates is one of the most lackadaisical functionalities that I see in the trade. And I'm also going to point a little bit of the blame towards the stewardship of both parties, mainly on the ocean vendor, but also I'm going to tell you why it's important for you as a maverick to keep track of this. So the minute that you get a new rate sheet, rate matrix, you should ask your vendor to affix that effective date on the matrix itself, right? And if they don't, then what you have to do is when you save that rate, let's say Hapag Lloyd contract number 123 WW, Amendment 1, effective 7/1, 2023. At least put a title to it so that you know when the effective date was, but also get in writing from the ocean vendor when each amendment was effective. Now, some of the most simple troubleshooting that I've seen and I've done, I shouldn't say I've seen because I'm the guy that wrote the book on it, right? What I like to do is I like to go back to my clients with a kind of a ghost written cover sheet, and it'll say something like, "Dear Hapag, we've had 32 amendments in the last 12 months. Uh, Please list the effective date of each amendment." That simple fact. That's actually, can I rewind that? I shouldn't have disclosed that on live TV. But seriously, though, that's a simple fact that could save tens of thousands of dollars to catalog the effective dates of the amendments. It's very important. And obviously, how a good date can make you rich. Well, we already went back to the fact that you saved the 40,000 on that receive for shipment date in the early example of July 6th versus July 7th. Um, and by clausing, when the dates are, you're taking away something that the NVOs and this is a little bit like, I'm going to go really out there, right? And be very, I don't want to be very controversial, like what happened with the Bud Light issue, right? But marketing within ocean vendors is sort of like, you know, what Bud Light has gone through, in terms of understanding the reaction, right? Right now, the reaction from an ocean carrier, from the general import export beneficial cargo owners, is a lot of silence, because you guys don't think about how important amendment and effective dates are on contracts, right? So it's like, hey, there's nothing to think about. But what if you're, Bud Light, and all of a sudden you go even a step further and you don't include other data, right? Or you include too much data, or you don't do enough market survey to say, hey, I should have done this or that with my marketing approach. But what if you are an ocean carrier and you have everything claused and delineated and you have it really tidy and you have the amendment dates and the effective dates? Then you've got a head start on the marketing, right? You don't have the controversial issues of, okay, hey, I'm just picking. I'm not throwing out any names here, but I'm just going to make up, let's say, the largest retailer in the world, right? Let's say that they go back to the vendor and they say in their quarterly business review, hey, you've had, we love how you put the amendment dates on our contracts. There are no surprises, right? Your marketing is point on, spot on. You came to us and you told us what you were going to deliver. You didn't deliver something controversial, right? Without putting the effective dates on, and then all of a sudden we've got a receivable problem or a DSO, delay in paying you because we can't interpret your invoices without the effective date. So I think you get where I'm coming from, right? Ocean freight amendment dates and dates should be extraordinarily controversial, just like the Bud Light, debacle that they kind of went through, and they didn't, look at that market in the right way, or do say or do the right things according to some experts. I think ocean freight vendors should do that, and that should be something that BCOs should actually help them push on. Now, speaking of mavericks and maverickesses, I think that you get a bad rap in terms of the job descriptions, and one of the reasons why I recover millions is that I think that ocean freight, global logistics managers, directors, transportation managers, they're tasked with auditing, right? They say, okay, in their job descriptions, okay, we here's the throw a pile of garbage, right? You've got carrier correspondence, no effective dates, complex invoices, detention, demurrage, incomplete invoices, and during the container getting period, many of these got rubber stamped. But really, what needs to be done? I have a simple test. What makes a good auditor, right? If you're looking at my screen now, this is actually something I stole from the Daily Mail in the last couple of days. And there used to be a little scientific study, like a sentence, like finished files are the result of the fruit of labors, blah, blah, blah. And so you have this sentence, and then you would tell somebody, count the number of the letter F's that you see in the sentence. And there were always 6 F's, the letter F, but there were the word of appeared twice. And supposedly the human eye doesn't see an F when there's an O before it. So people would always say this for the letter F in the sentence, not 6. Well, this test was great because I aced this test within, let's say, 3 seconds. Supposedly, you can look at this 444 set, and there's one set of numbers that's completely different. And supposedly, if you take more than 20 seconds to do it, you don't have a fine eye, right, for numbers. Now, I knew that I would pass this right away because I am all about numbers, right? I'm about manufacturing, the art and the science of the number. And so there's a number here, 474. And if you look at this on the slide, right, I'll show you where it is. It's on the second column from on the left, about 4 from the bottom. You'll see the number 474, right? So that is the only difference in this chart. And details count. So this is an art and a science, and this is one of the reasons why or how you start to sharpshoot and find recovery opportunities within the subject matter that we've been talking about. Now, when you're talking about that, you have to kind of combine it with this kind of, I always look at myself, or, I've got my shiny gold jacket on, so, I'm the TMZ of ocean freight. So, but if you go Hollywood, right, you have to go Hollywood confidential. And so what I mean by that is that ocean freight is a bit like celebrity confidentiality, right? So you've got a celebrity there that's protecting their name, their value, their proprietary positioning. So why not learn from Hollywood stars and big dollar named LLCs that when they buy multi-million dollar properties, you see it's Hollywood Trading LLC, right? The real owner hides behind who bought the property, and this is how the big, successful, entrepreneurs, Hollywood stars, and corporate CEOs do these kind of transactions. But why am I talking about this? It's because you can look at, say, some of the big auto manufacturers, and you can, through proprietary techniques that I've developed, I can go into the global manifest and say, okay, Hyundai is introducing a new proprietary or a test model car that they've never introduced. You ever see those spy shots of like cars? They're shrouded in secret hoods and to try to protect the shape and angle of the car. Well, all this detail comes out, and all the detail about your cargo is in the Global Ocean Freight Manifest. And it's shocking, right? Even the best of the best, right? You talk about somebody even like Walmart, right? You can go in and say, okay, how many SKUs of Walmart 62-inch TVs with a Google Philip brand name are coming in this week? And you can almost direct it to which DC they're going to. The amount of information is crazy that's out there, and to put it into the wrong hands or the right hands, it's really a killer, right? Because if Target knows how many TVs Walmart's bringing in of a certain type, Target can just discount and co-opt whatever Walmart's trying to do, and all this information's out there, and it's just out in the ether, right? And it's easy, And again, I've been looking at this data for 40 years, so I get it. But there are ways to treat the data as if you are a Hollywood star or starlet, and to help protect your company. And that's something that I would love to help you with in your quest for integration of improving cost performance vis-a-vis ocean freight refunding, global logistics refunding, and also the treatment of proprietary data, because data is money and it should be protected at all costs. And I think when you have to look at that, you have to look at not only protecting the hard money, but also finding a way to get easy money. And for nowhere better do I love my friend Rodney Dangerfield. And I spent so many days back in the 70s watching Carson and Rodney coming on, and love this poster of easy money. And I only put this on as easy money because I wanted to put a couple of strategies that we've talked about and we haven't talked about to help the BCOs out. Now, one that's a very little known one, and for good reason. The carriers don't want you to know about this. DIT, right? So what is DIT? So DIT stands for detention in transit, and it's a way for 10 or 14 days to delay your cargo. So, for example, if you're shipping, let's say, 440-foot containers of furniture from Europe to the USA. And let's say that's coming from, I'm just kind of making this up, let's say it's coming from Turkey, right? So you want to delay that. The ship could go from Turkey to Spain or Portugal. You could offload the cargo in Portugal as part of the service for a pretty nominal fee, delay the cargo in Portugal for 14 days, and then put the cargo back on a ship when you're ready. Now, it's an important functionality, especially as it relates to any warehousing challenges you might have. And so I was just doing some research before the show, and Maersk has a little blurb on it. Flexport has a little blurb on it. These are all existing opportunities on detention in transit. And I think that you have to look at that as an opportunity to avoid. Now, again, detention demurrage, we're still dealing with the aftermaths of that from Containergeddon. But also, you want to take a look at that in light of any kind of potential mini Containergeddons that might come down the pike. So detention in transit is an important vocabulary word for you to have at the ready. We already talked about other easy monies. That's refunding on these cusp dates, just to recap, where you have rate changes around a certain date. And then there's simple detention and demurrage logic that, I just looked at a new case at the FMC, a fruit and vegetable importer. The name's escaping me right now. Rahal, I think it was, a brand new filing in the last week or so, $700,000 detention or demurrage case. And, I'm refunding on average $1 million a week. And it really kind of pains me, right? Because I've been through 3 or 4 FMC cases as an expert witness, and I know how costly it is. I know that some of these cases can cost attorney fees, $250,000. And if you're arguing over 700,000, and let's say that gets dumbed down to $500,000, and then you got a $250 legal fee, 250,000 legal fee. It's just not worth it. There are so many simple detention and demurrage strategies that BCOs just are not playing the cards right on this. And not that every case is going to the FMC and it's being money's wasted. What I'm suggesting is that this particular case, where the petitioner could have probably easily secured a $500,000 plus refund, and then negotiated the other tranche of recoveries on detention and demurrage that they were looking after. There are many different ways to do it. It seems like the American government and the political system has been kind of bent or challenged that the American FMC system is the way to go. I'm a big FMC advocate, but when it comes to the fact that we had so much PR from the Biden administration that they're going to fix and cure the sins of the carriers, I tend to think that they overstated that, and many of these solutions are much quickly and more easily solved commercially than they ever would be through a governmental agency. So it's just it's not easy money to go through, let's say, the FMC. And again, the FMC only handles very boutique type cases. I mean, they handle so few in reality that if you as a BCO have a demurrage or detention or a refund problem, come to me. I'll solve the first tranche of the issue in 1 or 2 days and get you 100,000 or 200,000 as kind of an appetite starter. Once you do that, you're going to be happy that there's a resolution, and you don't have to pay a lawyer, right? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not trained to be a lawyer. I don't pretend to be one. But when I get a refund and the client gets their recovery, then I invoice the client. It's pretty simple. It's a percentage of the recovery. So I think that that's part of the easy money. Now, listen, here's one of the biggest single tips I'll give you today. When your service contract or NSA number is not affixed to your contract, all hell can break loose. The cargo can be rated at detention, demurrage rates and tariff. You can be added surcharges on the ocean. You can be added a bath that's not correct, or any other surcharge that's not part of your contract. You have to make sure that the contract number is affixed to every shipping order that your agent or manufacturer or buying office procures for you with regards to ocean freight, global transportation. So always, always, always as a gut check, look to make sure that the service contract number is on the invoice, because chances are 15, 20% of the time it won't be. Now, sometimes you'll get lucky and your contract rate will be there, even though the contract number is not showing. But you need to make sure that the contract number is showing. And while we're at it, I probably should have put another bullet on there that the receive for shipment date almost never shows up on invoicing. Now, I know what you're saying, that there are selected carriers that will show that, but it is not done consistently. I will go out on a limb and say it's for a reason. It's kind of like you baffle them with BS, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why that the ocean vendors don't do a great job with amendments and amendment dates, and they don't do a great job of fixing contract numbers to contracts to invoices. And it's done to obfuscate I think the clarity of the situation at hand. And I think that's something that all BCOs should be concerned with. Speaking of BCOs being concerned with being obfuscated, is it snake oil that the ocean vendors are offering, or is there a great tonic or elixir for what cures you? And I think as we start to round out our conversation today, you think about, and I got the idea here I see so many credit cards being used, right, to pay detention, demurrage. So, why not? I mean, but is it the right strategy? Paying detention and demurrage. Well, if you buy detention and demurrage on American Express, right, you get points. And what if you were able to get a terminal or a ocean vendor to make a deal with Amex that you get double points or triple points if you use your card to pay detention and demurrage? What a great opportunity. Or is it snake oil where the vendors never do that? But if you can charge your way out, right? And then you could, we're going to talk about the last slide in a second, but this could be a great elixir, a great tonic for the finance and logistics suite by using rewards to further promulgate other opportunities that you want to achieve within your company. I used to think about, what a $10,000 refund would buy a truckload of office paper. A $20,000 refund would buy, 2 temps at 10 hours a week for a year. But when you think about buying ocean freight, air freight, and detention demurrage services on credit, then you're really doubling your pleasure. Our last topic is, when you look at this, you can buy a truckload of furniture, right? Office furniture, or you've got the ability to show that ocean vendor, hey, ocean vendor XYZ gave us double points or triple points for using a credit card with Amex. They had a special, sponsorship, just like Eddie Bauer would do, or the Christian Dior store, on Amex Platinum, you say, you want to be part of that, and, voila, you got double or triple points. So I think that doubling your pleasure is something that can be a first mover and an advantage. And it's something that you as BCOs should definitely investigate with ocean vendors and terminals, because if you're using credit cards to pay detention, demurrage, or miscellaneous billing, then you should be justly rewarded. Now, at the same time, right, and my rip up of that is the fact that you still can get refunded, right? So here's the deal. You pay for detention, demurrage on credit card, you get the points. Maybe you get two times points if there's a sponsorship, and you can get an ocean vendor, and that should be pretty easy, right? It's just a stupid marketing thing that they do with Amex. And then you get a refund, or you talk to a guy like me and you get, your detention demurrage refund. That doesn't mean they claw back your points, right? So this is kind of a triple play strategy where you can really get some great cooking with oil type synergy going for your supply chain. So I had a lot of energy and a lot of power in my presentation to come to you today with these tips. And it's so great to have you as friends and fans and followers of Ocean Audit and Ocean Freight TV. I've really upped the game here in the last couple of weeks. We're seeing, as I said, multi-million-dollar recoveries. I've done the last couple audits that I've done. The quantum of recovery has well exceeded $1 million. Now, these are refunds from 2021 and 22 and parts of 2023. And I encourage every BCO, whether import, exporter, or within the sound of my voice, to look at your possibility of contributing back 100,000 to 500,000 to $1 million in lost working capital back to your CFO and treasury and refund suite. So from the palatial studios of Ocean Freight TV, I'll bid you adieu today. I'm Steve Ferreira, CEO of Ocean Audit. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or steve@oceanauditor.com, one of my new emails. And I also want to report to you that we have, for the longest time now, I have owned the domain freightaudit.com. And we're trying to figure out how to work that into the Ocean Audit family, without kind of taking away from the great niche that I've built up. But freightaudit.com is actually a Steve Ferreira property. And I think that the genre of freight auditing is very general, and my niche in global and ocean freight is very specific. But we'll find a way to incorporate that. And if any of you have some great ideas how to incorporate freightaudit.com, I'd love to talk to you about your marketing prowess and acumen. So from here in beautiful Lauderdale, Florida, I'll bid you all a good day and a great weekend. And please, any questions or comments, write down to me on LinkedIn or call me directly or email me directly. We'll see you later. Have a great weekend. Cheers. Bye.